Okay, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. We would like to welcome everyone joining us today to celebrate Mass STEM Week 2021, especially the students and teachers, to learn more about the amazing STEM careers available. If everyone could please let us know where you are coming in from in the chat, and if you're an educator, let us know what or program you're bringing with you, how many students you have coming along, and what grade they're in. Attendees, if you're joining us, please share your feedback with us on social media using the hashtags provided in the chat and help us make them go viral. My name is Luis Baptista and I identify as he, him, and I'm so excited to serve as your host for today's engineering panel. I currently work at United Way of Massachusetts Bay as a coordinator supporting the work in the community division. As a Boston native, born and raised in Dorchester, I've centered my career and passion supporting and strengthening the very community that helped raise me. A fellow Boston Public School alum, excuse me, graduating from the Boston Arts Academy in 2010, I have worked with students, families, educators, administrators, and education professionals of all types in a variety of educational settings, from formal classroom instruction, out of school time programming, and other direct service and administrative work over the last 10 years. I'm so humbled and delighted to be here with you all. And I'm also joined here today by an amazing group of STEM professionals who are here to share their stories with you all. If you have joined us earlier this week, you know you're in for a treat. Today's conversation will be centered around the engineering industries. Our first panelist is Naseem Razi. She leads the electrical department of Jacobs Engineering Group in New England. Before moving to Boston in 2011, Naseem worked in Los Angeles, California for 10 years at a renowned building engineering company called Burrow Happold. Excuse me if I'm butchering that name. Naseem was elected to be the Institute of Electrical, Electronic, and Engineering in Boston's Women chair in 2016. She collaborates actively with other professional organizations such as Society of Women Engineers, National Society of Black Engineers, and other companies to inspire girls to pursue technology related education and careers to empower women as leaders. Outside of her job, Naseem provides consultancy services in environmental, energy, sustainability, and resiliency to other companies and individuals. She currently is a mentor at Engineers Without Borders and a United Nations volunteer for peace and development. One of her hobbies is traveling to learn about other countries. She received her bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Tehran University and her Juris Doctorate in engineering, environment, and natural resources law from Southwestern Law School. Our second panelist is Nalin, excuse me, Nalin, if I butcher your last name, Ratnayake. He works for the Science Flight Projects Office at NASA's Langley Research Center, where he serves as the Deputy Project Manager for the Clareo Pathfinder mission. Clareo Pathfinder is an Earth observing science instrument that will launch in 2023 to help us better understand climate change from the vantage point of the International Space Station. Prior to Nolan's present role, he worked as a computational aerodynamics research engineer at two different NASA research centers. Nalin also teaches science full time at a high school within Boston Public Schools for several years, and he's excited to return to support as support for BoSTEM Week. Our third panelist, excuse me, is Heather Audet. She has 22 years of experience in geotechnical and heavy underground experience working on infrastructure as well as industrial and commercial development projects. Heather grew up in Massachusetts and went to the Florida Institute of Technology, where she received a Bachelor of Science in Ocean Engineering and a Master of Science in Civil Engineering. Heather has lived in several cities across the country, from Jacksonville, Florida to Cleveland, Ohio, and recently made her way back to Massachusetts. Welcome. Heather has managed a multi-million dollar public wastewater infrastructure project and led a field team on an international build project. She is an active WTS, excuse me, that is a professional organization that supports women in the transportation industry. And she's also helping others in the American Society of Civil Engineers and the Neponset River Watershed Association. Thank you, Heather, so much for your work. Our final panelist has been passionate about the construction industry from a very early age. Since then, her goal was to make sure she was one day to be a part of a team that would build a skyscraper, and has been working towards achieving that goal since she migrated to Lawrence, Massachusetts, and from the Dominican Republic in 1999. She began her career in the construction industry in 2006, where she attended Greater Lawrence Technical High School. It's located in Andover, Mass. So I hope some folks are familiar with that area. Please help me welcome Karina Pena. Working at GLTS, Karina focuses on carpentry and during her senior year had the opportunity to join the team and help build a low-income home. After high school, Karina went on to attend University of Massachusetts Lowell, where she received her bachelor's in civil engineering and a minor in business administration. Karina recently received her master's in construction management from Southern New Hampshire University in 2020. And she's currently working at PMA Consultants as a construction project manager. Attendees, please, if you have any questions that you might have, please use the chat or utilize the Q&A function down at the bottom of the screen. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming our guests and let's get started. So panelists, my first question to you all is intended to provide insight into the details that helped shape your industry. What or who got you interested in the engineering field? Please, let's get started with Naseem.
Um, I I can't say specifically whom or what got me into it. I definitely was born and raised in a scientific sort of family. My father was an electrical engineer, and my mom was a math teacher. My sister is a physicist. So that was there, to begin with. But since a kid, I love to build stuff. I always either was with a logo, either was with branch trees and leaves to build something, either with even like vegetables, if you believe me. So, and to me, engineering is just building something. Either it's a cell phone, it's a building, it's a car, anything. So that's pretty much, I can say, the environment that I grew up and my personal creativity, and that I was really enjoying to, build. That's how I got interested in engineering in general.
Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and pitch it over to Heather, then we can kick it to Nalin, and then Karina, you can wrap us up.
Hi, yeah, so I also come from kind of an engineering family. My father was a mechanical engineer. My brother is a mechanical engineer, so I guess it depends on the family. When I was in high school, at first I wanted to be a flight attendant, and then I learned about beaches washing away, and we were losing our beaches. So then I got really interested in beach renourishment and those kinds of projects. So I went to school for ocean engineering, which kind of is not everywhere. It's not a major that you're going to find at every school. In my school, ocean engineering involved coastal engineering, naval architecture, and then kind of mechanical engineering, like working on all the little SUV or underwater vehicles, like things like that. So I got my bachelor's degree and I wanted to find a coastal engineering job, and I couldn't find one at all. I found a job in geotechnical engineering, which is you design things that are underground. It could be a building or a bridge foundation, it could be tunnels, anything a dam, anything that is below the ground. And I did that for about a year, and I found out that I really, really loved it. I was half in the office, half in the field. So it's kind of a good break. You're not sitting in front of a computer every day. And I decided to go back and get my master's. And once I got my master's in civil engineering with a focus on geotechnical engineering, that kind of opened up a whole bunch of doors for me. And I've been able to, find jobs all over the country.
So yeah, I have something in common with Naseem and Heather. My father was also an engineer. He was a civil engineer. I grew up in Boise, Idaho, in a kind of rural suburban environment, as the child of immigrants from Sri Lanka. So that was an interesting starting point. But I was fortunate to have a family that encouraged me to be curious and go out and as Naseem said, build things. I would also add taking things apart, which probably got me in more trouble than the building things. I remember taking my vacuum cleaner apart, or not my vacuum cleaner, my mom's vacuum cleaner apart when I was a kid, and she was not very happy about that. But I wanted to figure out how it worked, um, I too loved Legos. I loved, when we got to do field trips from school to go to the science museum or even just to a park, just kind of exploring around and seeing what was out there. I think what drew me into engineering specifically is that I started to see that engineering really is sort of the bridge between ideas and people. Right. So ideas could be a problem that needs solving. Hey, this river is really wide and we need to get stuff over it. Can we build a bridge? How can we design something to do that? Or it could be a more abstract problem. For example, weather events are becoming more extreme. The climate is changing. How can we figure out what exactly is going on? And that's a much that's a complex problem as well. And the means to solving it is also within the domain of engineers. And the more I started looking around the world and seeing all the things that engineers do, everything from just some simple device you might have in your hand to a complex device you might have in your hand like an iPhone, all the way up to these giant machines that provide for the way that we live and the buildings we live in, the infrastructure that makes everything work. It's like, wow, the entire world depends on engineers, and that's a very cool thing to be a part of. And so I decided to major in engineering when I went off to undergraduate, and haven't turned back since, except for one brief stint where I was a teacher in Boston public schools. So I did that for about 5 years, but then came back to engineering. But it's just been a really fun journey, and I'm really glad to be part of a profession that is out there solving problems for people.
So powerful. Karina, please finish us off.
Yeah. So for me, it was a little different. I actually didn't have anyone in the engineering industry. I just knew that I wanted to be in construction. For me, I guess it was more about understanding more the industry and where I wanted to end up. So actually, like you said, Louis, I went to a vocational high school. That's where I took carpentry and I understood more of the fundamentals of the construction industry. But it wasn't until my senior year in high school when I had a teacher, Mr. Kenny, sit down and explain to me the different options that I had when it came to the construction industry. So it took me a little while to even understand where I wanted to end up. So ultimately, I ended up with either structural engineering or construction management. And during that discussion with Mr. Kenny, he explained to me how if I were to be an engineer, I can actually go into completely different fields depending on um, if I changed my mind eventually. It would just open more doors for me. So I ended up going for civil engineering at UMass Lowell. And eventually, I ended up falling more in love with construction management. And that is why I ended up going to Southern New Hampshire for construction management. I, and honestly, I've been in the construction industry now for a little while and I wouldn't change it for the world. I really enjoy it.
So amazing. So, much variety in the past that you guys bring as far as experience from familial to just kind of figuring out on your own and saying what is out there. It makes me think about our next question. What struggles did you face and how did you overcome them? Considering all those struggles, what or who helped you along the way? I'll go ahead and pitch that question to Naseem again to kick us off, please.
Sure. Um, Originally, I can say the major problem that I had or struggle was living in a patriarchy society, a very uh, conservative patriarchy, religious society, and of course, studying and working or trying to work on a male dominated industry. Um, so that was it, and but to be honest with you, that patriarchy thing that I told you remained even when I moved to United States. So I realized that it's not that much related to the society that I come from. It's probably a common thing. But what helped me out to overcome was work hard, work really hard. My mom used to say that um, this is the reality of what you live in. You have a choice. You can sit and wait and do nothing, or work hard, wait for the opportunity to prove yourself. Because if you are the best in what you're doing, trust me, no manager, no employer would pass you, would let you go. So that's pretty much that's what I did. And it's I worked hard. I pursue my goals. I always had uh, some goals that I followed up. I never took no as an answer. I and again, I just proved myself uh, to be someone who knows what she's talking about, who knows her work, her field, her technical or other aspect of the work. And I proved myself, and now I'm running a department with 30 engineers on it, in a company as with like 70,000 employees. So just to be short, I think yeah, just work hard and know what know your technical issues, know your get
Oh, I think we lost Nasim a little bit there. While we wait for her to get reconnected, I just want to sum up a little bit of what Nasim is getting at. Perseverance and that growth
for
mindset
the
is what
other
we're pushing at. Oh,
part. Yeah, don't see my capabilities. It doesn't mean that I don't have it, and I have to prove them that I do have it. Sorry I took long.
no, you're fine. You just broke up a little bit there at the end, and I was just trying to sum up what you were getting at. I think it was perseverance and hard work, I think is what you're getting at, which is really related to the growth mindset in the STEM field. So thank you for reinforcing that message. Heather, please take us away, and then we'll pass it to Nalin.
Um, I guess I kind of mentioned my biggest struggle right when I graduated. Um, with my bachelor's degree, I had a pretty hard time finding work in the field that I wanted to be in. And it was a fairly easy jump to go from ocean engineering to civil engineering. And my first job, it was a geotechnical engineer, but I also did engineering work or environmental work. So I would do environmental assessments of properties, figuring out what the past history of properties were, if there was any contamination on it. I also worked on a project where I tested paint to find out if there was lead in the paint, so that the owner of the property could abate and repaint everything. And finding out that was really what I was passionate about. It kind of took the sting away from not being able to do what I had gone to school for. But once you're trained as an engineer, you learn to adapt and solve all kinds of problems. So once you've got that background, you can jump to different fields as needed. Someone that helped me along the way, I had a really great office manager when I lived in Cleveland. I was transitioning more from a worker bee engineer to the managing side of things, and he was incredibly helpful. and mentoring me and working with me to get me ready to manage larger projects.
Yes, yes. Navigating the field is not easy, so a mentor is super helpful. Thank you, Heather. Nalin, and we can wrap up with Karina once more.
Sounds good. I think one of the struggles that I recall for me was financial. My family didn't have a lot growing up, and I always loved air and space. That was the coolest thing to me was airplanes and rockets and stuff like that. And there wasn't really a program in Idaho that did aerospace engineering. It didn't exist. So that would have meant I had to go out of state for college, which means that college is more expensive. And I had to make some decisions about what is it that I can afford, how much debt do I want to take on, and that was a lot of hard conversations with my family, and that's something that more and more I think families have to have these very serious conversations about. And I realized that one of the best ways I can uh, contribute to a solution to that problem is do whatever I can to get scholarships. So I had to grind a lot to make sure my grades were high, to make sure that I was applying to scholarships. Not all scholarships depend solely on your grades. They depend on other things. Were you active? Were you out there doing community service? Were you out there, getting involved in your community um, and the arts or other extracurriculars and so forth. So, that scholarship hunt and being sure that I would be able to afford college for what I wanted to do was the struggle. I was, I mean, it worked out. I was able to go to Arizona State University on a full ride scholarship, and that really opened up a lot of doors for me. And after that, once I got into the field, since then my employers have paid for my advanced degrees. So I actually have 3 degrees and I didn't pay for any of them, which is awesome. I almost feel like I can't be a real millennial just saying that. But but you do have to kind of get out there and reach for these opportunities and do what you can to take advantage of some of these kind of hidden opportunities that are there, and you got to work for those. And I think Naseem really brought up a great point. There's a certain stubbornness involved in making your way that you have to have to get up there. And so that was the struggle, but I'm glad I was able to get through that.
Super
Did you want me
helpful.
to answer the next one too, the who or what helped you along the way, or were you going to come back around for that?
Yeah, if you found anything that was
Oh,
helpful, I don't know who kind of informed
oh,
your
absolutely,
decision or
yeah.
helped you
I was
navigate that.
just
Yeah,
absolutely. I just want to plug mentors. Heather mentioned somebody who reached out to her and gave her a lot of great advice. I'm totally in agreement with that. That there's people out there who've had experiences. You're never alone, even when it might seem like it. Sometimes you might have to do a little bit of digging, a little bit of work to find somebody who is willing to give you the time. But that starts with asking the question and reaching out and asking for help sometimes. Um, and I've had so many mentors. I couldn't even list them all. There's just dozens of people who helped me along the way, and you got to seek those people out because they're very, very valuable to you.
absolutely. Such a welcoming community, the STEM community. So students, exercise that voice. We want to
Hmm.
see you get connected. Absolutely. Karina, please wrap us up. Again, what were some of the struggles along the way and what helped you or who helped you?
Yeah. So like Nalin, my biggest struggle was financial as well. I really couldn't afford pretty much anything, not even my books. My sister was the one who actually helped me get my first laptop that actually helped me through college. I also got really lucky because I met some amazing friends. They helped me and shared their books with me or anything that I needed help with. Um, but I remember actually waking up at like 6 a.m., commuting to school, um, going to work because I was working full time at the time as well, then going back to school and ultimately getting home at like 3 o'clock in the morning to do it all over again. Um, and that was all while taking 6, 7 classes at the same time. So I was just gonna keep going. It did not matter what it took, but eventually it did get to be a lot for me. Just mentally and physically, I did end up getting sick, but um, I remember one day calling my mom and just explaining to her how how overwhelmed I felt. And like she just kind of responded crying to just come home. And when she cried and told me that she wished she could do more for me, that lit a fire in me that honestly I can't even explain. Um, I just the fact that she cried because she wished she could do better just really got to me. And from that day on, I figured it out. I asked questions. If I didn't get the answer I was looking for, I went to the next person until I got the answer that I was looking for. And but ultimately, I'm gonna say like a few weeks after that conversation, I received an email from the financial aid office that I received a scholarship for women in engineering. Um, and honestly, that saved me because I was able to study more and work less. Um, and I just, I'm very grateful to that gentleman who gave me that scholarship. And after I graduated college, I met my first mentor. His name was John Oliva. He literally helped me tremendously by just explaining to me the different routes that I can take because my mother, she didn't really speak the language, didn't go to college, didn't understand what it was like to be in the field. So having him around was very helpful. I still talk to him till this day. And it wasn't until I'm gonna say like 2, 3 years ago that I worked with the first women in a high position in the industry. And her name was is Deborah Palmer. I'm still really close with her. She is a friend and a mentor to me now. And she's also helped me also in the sense that, like Naseem said, women in the construction industry can get a little hard. So getting that input from someone who's been through it for 20, 30 years and them understanding where you're coming from is very valuable because you feel like you're not alone. You feel like they understand what you're going through. They understand where you are now and where you're headed. So I'm very grateful to have her in my life. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's such a beautiful picture we painted here. We definitely kind of tie the theme here as far as pursuing a mentor, students, exercising your voice and understanding that hard work is definitely going to be rewarded later on. So I hope that we're walking away with some encouragement here. Thank you so much, panelists, for sharing. All right. So let's shift gears a little bit to explore the issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the STEM industries. I know that you folks mentioned it a little bit, but some may find it surprising to learn that the STEM fields lack diversity. So it's often difficult for Boston Public School students to find role models they need to help see themselves as future STEM professionals. My second group of questions is all intended to learn about your perspective on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and or your personal experiences around that. We'll go ahead and change up the order a little bit. Karina, you can kick us off this time. And my question to you is, how do you think the STEM fields can further diversify the candidate pool? And how can we make the industry more accessible and inclusive to those that are typically underrepresented?
Okay, so the one thing that each person that has impacted my life have in common is that they sat down and talked to me. They really tried to get to know me and understand me, where I'm coming from. They gave me advice. I guess we need to understand that many of us grew up with parents who didn't understand the language or didn't attend college because they worked 2, 3 jobs. So I personally think that there needs to be more guidance for kids. And for those who just don't understand what to expect, actually PMA, my employer now, sorry about that. They have this program for high school students. I believe they start the sophomore year through their graduation senior year, and they guide them and they help them understand the industry, and that's really important. I wish I would have had that because it would have saved me a lot of heartache, I guess. um, I guess there should be more programs like this and just more people who take their time to sit down with the child and explain to them what to expect and what to look for.
Absolutely. Yeah. Open communication, getting folks on the same page is super important. Thank you so much, Karina, for kicking us off. We'll go ahead and switch up the order a little bit. Heather, we'll shift gears to you, pass it to Nalin, and then Naseem, you can wrap us up, please.
So one of the things that I do for Women in Transportation, WTS, is they have a Transportation U program, and we have a STEM summit every year for girls that are ages 8 to 18. And we go through like planning and engineering and different aspects of transportation. So I would advise students to get involved in any of these, extracurricular activities. There's Future City is one. I know there was just an online bridge competition. There's a guy named Reed Brockman that has an engineering program on public television, on Boston Public Television. I think it's every month. So, I would advise kids to, search this stuff out. And the Boston Public Television thing, I believe he's also got a YouTube channel. So, it should be accessible to anybody that has a phone. And when you do these activities, you're gonna meet people, you're gonna meet mentors. So that can help you along the way. One thing I do feel strongly about is, as Nala mentioned, scholarships, and Karina mentioned that as well. The cost of going to college or university is like ridiculous now. I feel bad for anyone that is in high school and has to think about how much it's going to cost, because it was, when I went to school, it was in the 90s, it was not this bad. So anything that you can do, to lessen the amount of loans that you have to take out, and you'll be paying back forever. So, but once you finish school, then you can get your foot in the door. And I too went to grad school for free. I was able to get a research assistantship, so I didn't really have to pay anything for grad school. So, there's always, it may not have been my first choice, but I didn't have to pay for it. So, there's always a way to work around things if you look hard for it.
Thank you, Heather, for that reminder. Students, yeah, the resources are plentiful. Please just try as hard as you can to find them and use them to your advantage. We'll go ahead and toss it to Nalin to wrap us up, and Naseem, please.
Well, I think one of the ways that we can help diversify STEM is doing exactly what we're doing now, is getting in front of students and changing the narrative a little bit. Because while it is true that many STEM fields have a long way to go in terms of really diversifying their workforce, it's also true that those workforces are probably more diverse than some people think. There are people working in all these professions. I mean, if you look at the panel that you have in front of you now, these are, fairly accomplished people who are here in front of you talking to you, who came from a variety of backgrounds, right? So the people are there. And I think part of it is in reaching out and changing that perception that, oh, those kinds of fields are not for people like me, right? Because there's this like image, when you think scientist, what do you think of? It's like old white dude in a lab coat doing math equations on a chalkboard or something, right? And it's, that's something that might have been historical at one point in time. It's repeated by media. It's repeated by, just like the stock image that everybody has in their head, and it's not necessarily true all the time and in many places. So we just got to get out there and diversify the image of the profession. So I think that's a start. And then a second thing that we can do that I think NASA has had quite a bit of success with is once employees are hired, once they've actually made it to the point where they're in the organization, you don't consider it that the problem's done. It's It's you need to give those people support. You need to give them people to connect to. You need to give them mentors. You need to give them a forum to talk with other people who are like them so that they don't feel alone. And NASA calls those groups employee resource groups. So we have, a Black engineers resource group. We have a similar like Society of Women Engineers chapter. We call it Allies and Advocates for Women within NASA. We have Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. We have just like name any group, and there is an employee resource group for those people so that they can get connected to resources. They have other people to listen, and they have a voice within the organization. I think that's something really powerful that organizations and employers can do themselves. I think that, I'd just like to reiterate something that I heard all four of us say is that, going back to that element of stubbornness, right? Like you're going to face obstacles. It's not going to be easy for a number of different reasons. And one of those reasons might be that you're facing some headwinds based on who you are and where you come from to get into that profession. And, that you could argue all day about whether it's right or whether it should be that way or not. But, the way that it is might mean that you need to go out and reach and run a little bit harder. And it might not be fair, but it is within your control to go out and be stubborn and reach for those resources and do what you can. And it's on us as the more established people who are in our careers right now, the four of us on this panel, to look for people who are putting in that effort and putting in that struggle and reach out to them and help them. Get on board and pursue what they want to pursue.
So powerful. Naseem, please help us wrap us up. And just to remind you, the question is, how do you think STEM fields can further diversify their candidate pools, or how can we make the industry more accessible and inclusive to those who are typically underrepresented?
Well, as a hiring manager in Jacobs, actually, I see always this struggle to have a diverse pool of candidates to hire from. Um, I have when IEEE and actually SRI, we see the lack of diversity in the STEAM field, and we started in like very early from the middle school programs that have girls get into or get interested in the STEAM field in general. Something that I realized that, and I'm not in policy making or something, but I realized that the STEAM field, they're not very popular between the girls. I don't know why, but they seem to be like as if no, that's not for me. And I'm not talking necessarily about like not white people. Even the white girls, they see something that is not for them and they don't pursue it, or they don't easily pursue it. So what we realize is that make them believe in their get them to know like engineering is not something that hard, that is out of reach to begin with, and then make it more diverse. Jacobs, as a company, actually, we just yesterday we received an email from our CEO that they started a program called STEAM, not STEM. They added an A in the middle to add art to the science technology, because Jacob's motto is challenging today and reinventing tomorrow. And for reinventing, they think that creativity and art, is part of that. And they encourage a lot to, like, for example, in this program, they're paying us 4 hours to each employee to go and volunteer for the STEM work. As for the diversity, last year, August 2020, after the whole George Floyd things, Jacobs launched the Global Action Plan for Advancing Justice and Equity, and they called it the Together Beyond. So they have a goal of having a 40-40-20 by 2025, and they have scholarships, they have like I said, for our like career fair, for the pool of candidates, we go reach out to more diverse universities, colleges, and not necessarily what is around in Boston. For some colleges that they're like historically they're more diverse, or just like black dominant, or like other dominant. um, and so these are the things that Jacobs does, and we hope, actually, again, like I said, because I'm a part of the inclusion diversity committee of Jacobs, and their goal is to feel Jacob is diverse, and bring every have a presence of like the diverse group of people in the company, but it's also inclusive, meaning that you don't need to fit so-called in the culture. You feel included, you feel belong. This is the goal that we're trying to implement and set up policies that everyone feels included at Jacobs. But again, I think partially it's maybe we can start earlier, and like in you guys, you students, that believe in yourself, believe in your capabilities, and the help is out there. I understand it might not seems reachable to you, but you just gotta try and reach further. Trust me, there's always there. And just see uh, what is sounds more appealing to you. What do you like to do more, and just go for it.
I love that naturally folks have already started to share what their culture at their organization is like, or strategies that folks can kind of just use or start to explore to really practice DEI. Thank you so much. I want to pitch the second question to Heather and Karina. Have you, your company, or anyone you know found success in strengthening DEI? What did that look like, as we're hearing employee resource groups, creating a culture of inclusivity, regardless of whether or not you fit in the culture? How can others follow suit related to your organizational culture or personal experience with DEI? And
Um,
Heather or Karina? Heather,
I
do you
can
want to
talk.
start? Okay.
So at GZA, I think it was 2018-ish, we started a corporate, diversity, inclusion, and equity committee. Um, and the committee's got several little groups, like one is recruiting, one is company culture, and I'm the lead for the outreach group. So the outreach group, we go out and volunteer at different STEM events like this. But because of COVID, there really haven't been a lot of activities except for these virtual events. And I feel like it's kind of, and everyone's getting, all the kids are getting zoomed out now. So it's kind of like putting a damper on some of my outreach activity, stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. But as far as recruiting, we have really been focusing hard on recruiting people from underrepresented backgrounds. So in my group, I think there's maybe like 20 employees in my geotech group. And everybody that we've hired in the last maybe 3 years has been a woman or a person of color. So we have not had any problems hiring young staff out of college. Of course, upper management is still pretty white, and it's going to take a while for that to change, I think, because people have to have, the younger engineers have to gain more experience before they can move up the ladder. But I think the resumes that we're getting from the local colleges, and we actually are recruiting from some historically Black schools as well. We're getting some great resumes from people of all backgrounds. So I find that really, really good news.
Thank you so much for sharing, Heather. Karina, please let us know what's going on at PMA Consultants.
Yeah, so like I said, there is this program where they have a student from high school and underrepresented students that they kind of guide through from like their sophomore year to their senior year. But also, honestly, I feel like PMA is one of the most diverse organizations I've ever worked at. You can literally find, whether it's women or people of color, it's an extremely diverse organization, and it's something that it's good because it doesn't matter who you are, you'll find someone who you have something in common with in the organization. Um, their hiring process must be top notch because honestly, like I said, it's just, well, it is top notch because, like I said, it's just a very diverse company.
Thank you. Students, I hope that we're listening closely because these are prospects for jobs. Some of these companies are actively integrating DEI. Some of them are definitely starting to explore and understand how do we fit into all this culture. But wow, such wisdom from each of you. It's a complex problem that, can't be fixed overnight, so we have to fully recognize that. And you all shared such great lessons and insight into how others can find inspiration to just push forward through this challenge and create a more equitable, diverse, and inclusive work environment. I hope our attendees are taking notes because I know I am. So we've heard from our panelists for quite some time now, and I want to allow some time for our audience to share their questions or comments. So please, if you are joining us or have recently joined us, we'd love to hear your comments, questions. Please use the chat function down at the bottom of the screen. We also have a Q&A feature down at the bottom that we can also use to pitch questions to panelists. I know that we are cutting close on time, but please feel free to add any questions that you might have in the chat. All right. Well, so to just kind of pay respect to time, since our panelists did provide a great picture of what pursuing a STEM career looks like and some of the lessons that we can kind of take away today, I really want us to start considering what is it that we can do to kind of walk away today feeling empowered, inspired, and seeing ourselves in STEM. So to help us close, panelists, I have one last question to you all. My final question is, considering all that we discussed today, what advice would you like to leave our students watching now or others interested in pursuing a STEM career? We talked about DEI, we talked about the challenges that you face, we talked about supports. What advice can you kind of instill in our students or our attendees today to turn around and walk away and say, you know what, I'm so happy I attended today. And this is open to anyone who wants to start us off. No order in particular. Just raise your hand and let me know if you want to start.
I'll get started. It's okay.
Oh,
Go ahead, Nalin. You put his hand up. Go ahead.
thank you, Nalin. And then
All right,
Karina.
thanks, Karina. Sorry about that. I didn't realize you were about to jump in. But I guess one thing I would say to all of our students out there is we need you. We really need you because if you look around at the world right now, there are a lot of problems that need solving. And going back to what I said at the very beginning, what do engineers do? We solve problems for people. We're going to have 12 billion people on this planet within our lifetimes. How are we going to feed them? Engineering problem. How are we going to get them clean drinking water? Engineering problem. How are we going to get them enough energy to house them in a way that preserves our climate? Engineering problem. These are all problems. They're huge problems. And they're problems that every city, every nation, and every person on this planet is going to feel the impact of. And the people who are going to address those problems are engineers. So if you'd like to be a part of the solution to all these pressing things that our whole species has on our plate right now, and there's a lot, um, engineering is a wonderful way to get in there and use your creativity, use your skill, use your talent to bring these solutions to people who need them. Intern.nasa.gov. Go check it out. It's an easy
There
website. I'll
you
put it in
go.
the chat.
Thank you, Nalin. Karina, I'll go ahead and pass it to you.
Yeah, so I know the main topic was struggle. So I just wanted to just say not to let the struggle define you. Whatever that struggle might be that you're going through right now, just let it drive you and move forward. Um, there is a way. So just keep moving forward and ask questions. Ask lots of questions. People will help you if you ask the questions. So just keep moving forward and you got this. And we need you in the industry. So come on, join
You're
us.
s- Yeah, you're so needed. You're so powerful, students. I love these messages. All right, so we have Heather and Naseem. Would either of you like to go first?
I can go.
Heather, please. Thank you.
Um, if if you have a passion, follow it, whether it's climate change or clean drinking water or clean rivers, follow it. And just keep your eyes open for opportunities and for people to help you. Because yeah, I think yeah, everyone's hiring, everyone's getting busy. You know, there's a lot of engineering to do. So um, so if you have a passion for it, definitely follow that passion.
Absolutely. Let that passion be the GPS, students. Oh, such valuable messages. Naseem, bring us home. What is your advice to students who are interested in pursuing a STEM career? Oh, you're on mute. I'm so sorry.
Sorry. So in continuation of what Karina says, that never give up. If there is a will, there is a way. I mean, I know it seems difficult. I know it seems sometimes impossible, but it's always, everything is possible as long as you're committed to make it happen. So remember that. It's believe in yourself, believe lots in yourself. Don't ever question your capabilities, and you will be home. And yeah, like Nalin said, we do need engineers. And as a woman, as an immigrant, and everything I'm telling you, like the job security for an engineer probably is one of the highest. So even if you think of, just have a safe job in future, something, engineer is one of the best, I guarantee you.
Thank you. Very insightful. Students, oh my gosh. What an impactful event. Thank you, panelists, so much for your time. A special thanks to United Way's BoSTEM, the Boston Public Schools STEM team, all the panelists, their respective companies, and everyone who contributed to making today happen. We are so thankful that you allowed today to happen and provided this for our community. Participants, attendees, please consider joining us tomorrow for our final STEM panel between 1 and 2 p.m. Eastern Time. But just to kind of bring us home, I just want to thank everyone again for joining us and have a great rest of the night. Enjoy STEM week, and I'll see you at a future STEM event.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, everyone.